Yeah, I
Be
know.
spontaneous.
Be spontaneous. Hey,
We
I already.
actually have a studio audience.
Hey, I
today.
already hit record, so Mike can either edit out this stuff or we could just get going. What do you want to do?
Go with it.
I guess we already started, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome to No Apology with Emily and Chris. So glad you're with us. We're going to be laughing louder, digging deeper, living larger once again today, and I hope you will be doing that right alongside us.
Some call it companion radio. It is a variety talk show with a Christian worldview, and we're bringing truth to your world honestly and authentically and without apology. And we have a show, we're going to really focus on AI and how civilization is going to be lost forever.
We're doomed.
We're doomed.
Doomed.
In fact, AI could already be taking over your household while you're listening to this. You never know.
Yeah.
Either way, we're going to talk about the end times through the lens of AI and all that's been going on. Mike Shaw's in the building. We're going to be getting to that in just a minute. But we're going to start like we always do with our news headline Granny Rant. Here she is. Here's Emily.
You put that picture up a little early, dear. Here
Well,
she is.
yeah.
That was not me, by the way. Anyway.
No, that's a picture coming up later, but it's covering up the granny.
Oh, I see.
That's where Granny used to sit.
Okay, all right. Well,
And
that's good
Granny
to
from
know.
the Hillbillies.
If you have
Man, this
been
is
living,
off the rails.
If you've been living in a cave lately, you may not have heard about the big scuttlebutt coming out of the Kansas City Chiefs camp. That, of course, has to do with Travis Kelce and Harrison Butker. They both had public appearances to be made recently, and their messages could not be more different. They are polar opposite. First, let's start with Kelce. Travis Kelce and his brother, they have a podcast, and they decided to do their podcast from their alma mater, the University of Cincinnati. Now, when the university realized that they were coming there, they thought, here's a great idea. Neither one of the Kelce brothers attended their actual commencement ceremonies. So they thought, let's give them an opportunity to actually physically receive those sheepskins. So it started out kind of a cool idea, whatever. Travis Kelce walks across the stage during this thing, stops, and chugs down a beer, then slams it on the ground. The remaining beer in the can just flies all over. And surprisingly enough, he got a little backlash for that. But let's go to the flip side of that. We have Harrison Butker. Same team, Kansas City
Okay, so
team.
you left me hanging on the Kelce. He's on stage. That's the picture we have.
Yeah, he downs a beer,
And
throws it on the ground.
Did he talk?
Well, he did talk, but I didn't listen to him.
Okay, that's coming in a little while. Okay,
But anyway, let's
So
see
that's
here. The
one
flip
Kansas
side,
City
That's one
chief.
Kansas City chief.
walking across the stage, chugging a beer, telling everybody to
Yeah.
party.
Harrison Butker.
Harrison
was
Butker's the
formally invited to do the commencement speech at his alma mater, which is Georgia Tech. He did so, and I have to give him props because I read through a little bit of what he said, and he had a lot of sage advice. You know what I mean? He had a lot of encouragement for those graduates in attendance, and it was really pretty good. He talked about things like there's a lot of people out there today that they're smart, they're hardworking, but they're miserable. And in his opinion, it was because they don't feel like they have a purpose. He also talked about the importance of emphasizing your family and friends and relationships over things like success and wealth and things like that. He finally got to the pandemic and the effects that the pandemic has had on people. He said there's a lot of people who are still to this day depressed, anxious.
Yeah,
all
we've not
those
been
things.
the same as a society
Exactly.
since lockdown. I don't care what anybody
So,
says.
yeah.
It's not the same.
He's observant. He's looking at things around him. But this is his quote. He says, I'm not sure the root of this, but at least I can offer one controversial antidote that I believe will have a lasting impact for generations to come. Get married and start a family. That was his advice. And of course, while Kelce throwing beer around and chugging beer received lots of cheers, Butker received some jeers, right? And
Well, there's been a lot of
actually-
cheers. I'll get to that in a second, but go ahead.
And actually, he received demands, a petition with a significant number of people demanding that the Chiefs literally fire him for the audacity of saying such a thing. So far, the Chiefs have unabashedly stood by him. And I think within a day or two, all that has quelled down, of course. But the fact that we're even having these discussions.
Yep, that's
that he
it.
goes to a college and just says, this is what's worked for me. These are the things that are good for me as an individual, our community, our country, the people around us. Is just good. And so hold on to that. Try those things. But here's the thing that we have to remember. As we're watching Kelsey being cheered for pushing the drinking and the beer and the party and have as much fun as you possibly can, he did get a little bit of backlash. He got a little bit of backlash, kind of like, dude, the 80s are over. Animal Party, the movie's old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've moved past that, and we've recognized that that's just not appropriate. It's not good. It's not a healthy thing to be doing, right? So I thought it was just really interesting that once again we see that dichotomy. Once again we see evil being called good and good being called evil. But the outrage that Butker faced for his comments regarding marriage and family, it seems so odd because if marriage is such an awful, awful thing, then why were leftists pushing for homosexual marriage to be approved? It doesn't even make
Nothing they
any
do makes sense when you really pull
It
back all the
makes
layers of the onion.
no sense. So it's really not about marriage. Let's be honest here. It's really not about marriage at all. It's about God's plan for humanity. That's what they're really
The
objecting
patriarchy,
to.
all of it.
Exactly, from top to bottom. And so just dismantling it brick by brick is kind of the method that they're using. And I have to believe, or I have to really think that they're successful. Because
What do you mean by
are.
successful?
They're successful in dismantling these ideals and these former things that we used to hold on to. So, like, for example, one of the things that Harrison Buckner was talking about was just putting others before yourself. That's been a thing that was commonly reinforced in years past, in ages past, not just by your parents, but even school teachers and things like that. But we've abandoned that, and now instead we have a me first culture. We have abandoned, and we now hate the thought of thinking in terms of the future or what's good for humanity as a whole. And instead now, again, it's the here and the now and what's in it for me. We've abandoned the value of family, and now the most important thing is self. We've abandoned what's good and right for what's in it for me. We've abandoned doing the right thing for doing what feels good. There's been a major shift, and we see it playing out, not just in these two men,
Right.
but in everyday life. So
It's actually worse than that.
yeah, it really is.
And can I expound a minute?
Absolutely.
It's worse than that because we now have where it's not about abandoning. It's not about, putting your faith first or your faith second, or, hey, all people have a right. Like, hockey's for everybody. Paint your stick in a rainbow color. It's not even about those things
Right.
anymore. Now we have crossed a line. This is an evidence of what we've been talking about. It's been coming for like 5, 6, 7 years. It's finally here.
Okay.
Where we have tipped the boat. The boat is tipped over. There's more of them than there are of us. And what do I mean by more of them? Them are the kind of people where we are now living. Think about this. Think about the statement I'm about to make. Where you come out publicly in a public environment and you say, I think that it would be awesome for somebody to get married and have a family.
Right.
And 100,000 people sign petitions to get you fired.
Exactly.
Because you can't have family values. Family values go against our values, which is that of chaos, that,
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Here we are.
George Orwell, 1984. Hello.
it is all about the collective and not about the individual
Right,
anymore. And when it
right.
comes to the individual, you can't say anything about them unless they have one characteristic. If you have one characteristic, it's open season for you, and they will come to try to hurt you and eventually try to kill you. And that is if you are a Christian or a Jew.
Yeah, that's
There's something crazy about the fact that everything else goes. Communism,
everything else is fine.
everything else is fine.
Yeah.
But being a family valued Christian or Jew, you
Mm-hmm.
must be eliminated. You must be fired. You must be hurt. You must be canceled. And Andy Reid came out and said, I'm not losing a great kicker over this woke nonsense.
Exactly. They have completely supported him, which I was thankful and almost a little bit shocked.
If he was, if he didn't just win like 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls,
they might not have.
I don't know if he'd still keep his job. And
Yeah.
one of the underlings of Roger Goodell of the NFL came out and said, we don't condone the comments of Harrison
Yeah.
Butker.
We don't
Football's for
share
everyone.
those. Yeah, we
Football's
don't
for
share those
everyone.
values. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone.
And
huh?
that's kind of what I was getting back to when I kind of touched on homosexual marriage. I remember when those conversations first started, and a lot of people just thought, well, that's just so outlandish. That's just so ridiculous. That's never going to happen. Well, here we are. And that's the thing. The fact that we're having these discussions tells you exactly where we are headed. We're going there where that will no longer be tolerated. And so here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the fact that they even had a little bit of backlash for Kelsey in the whole beer guzzling thing. There were a few people that didn't like that and voiced that. That tide kind of turned back in like the late 80s, early 90s. Nancy Reagan with her Just Say No campaign and the
I don't know.
DARE program, that started shifting people's opinion as far as drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. It was less accepted. But you fast forward to today, I mean, our abuse, our substance abuse is worse. You know what I mean? It really hasn't helped us when you look at the
It's totally
fentanyl.
different substances that are being
Yes,
abused.
Exactly.
And it looks completely different, but
Exactly.
human nature is still human nature.
So the bottom line is this.
Hit me.
We all know. People are giving, Kelsey a little backlash. People are supporting Butker. We all know innately, each and every one of us, we do know there's something amiss with Kelsey, that he's either going to eventually come to his senses or he's going to continue in a downward spiral with his bizarre antics. But we know. And there was nothing wrong with Butker's speech. We know that.
Yeah.
We innately know that. So when we go to...
Do you remember when Tim Tebow came up and how everybody was blasting Tim Tebow? And when he would walk
With
on the field for... Well, that was when he was in college. When he still kept it going when he was in the pros with
his
Denver.
pro-life stance.
Yeah. Well, and then his kneeling and to pray before the game on the sidelines. And so they were just ripping him.
Yeah.
What happened to that stadium in Denver when he walked down the field?
Yeah.
They went ballistic. They went ballistic. Here's what happened. Travis Kelce's jersey sales dipped just slightly over the past week. What is the number one selling jersey right now in America?
Could it be Harrison's?
First kicker in history to have the number one selling
right,
jersey.
right.
And guess what style of jersey is the number one seller?
I don't know what that means, but
Well, they
tell
have
me.
women cut and then youth and then they have men.
Okay, I hope it's men.
The women cut jerseys of Harrison Butker are sold out nationwide.
Yeah,
You can't find them.
absolutely.
So even though he was dissing women,
Yeah,
according to
apparently.
them,
The women loved it.
have come out in droves to buy his. They're going to walk around with their name Butker on the back of their on their back. That is funny in and of
women
itself.
and mothers. I mean, they're sick of it.
Yeah.
They are just sick of it. We bought into this lie that we could have everything if we wanted it, and then we realized no, you can't. If you have one thing, you have to sacrifice something else.
Yeah.
And right now, the number one complaint with wives and mothers in their life overall is that they don't have enough time with their family. Mm-hmm. That's their biggest complaint because
Or when they are with their families, they're so tired and they've got to do
Yeah.
dishes and they're still trying to do this and the husband's trying to help, but he ain't doing enough. And,
Yep.
and it's just this disappointment
exactly
is around
Yeah.
everybody and everything. This is just one more symptom
Right.
of it.
But we have moved ourselves into the arena where we don't really have too much of a choice anymore. People have to really be financially stable and in that upper crust in order for a woman not to work, or they have to make some pretty drastic sacrifices in order for her to stay home. And so we kind of lost there. We really did as women. We really lost out. But Romans chapter 1, verses 19 and 20, it says, "For what can be known about God is plain to them." We all know, right? We all know, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and his divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. We all know. Just before the prophet Micah, just before he was going to sound that warning of the coming of judgment on the people of Israel, he kind of asks some questions sarcastically because he really does know the answer. He says, what does it take to please Yahweh? Does it take 1,000 rams? Does it take 10,000 rivers of oil? Should I give him my firstborn? For all the sins of my body, should I give everything that my body produces to God? Like, what is it that's going to please you? And then in chapter 6, verse 8, Micah goes on to say, he has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love loving kindness, and to
Mercy.
walk humbly with your God. Yeah, exactly. There you have it. We know God has not made it a secret. And so don't be afraid to, when the world's bucking against what God has said, don't be afraid to be, a butker. In a world full of Kelseys, be a butker and stand up for what you know, because we know it's innate.
Yeah.
We know what's right. So
Well,
that is the end of
awesome.
my granny rant.
All right.
All right. Let's turn to, I got applause from our studio audience.
Yes. Yes, there's applause.
That sounds like a golf course.
Yeah. Okay, quiet on the
All
set.
right, we are turning now to Salvaged by God, a deep dive with Chris Danielson.
Yeah, the Salvaged by God deep dive today. I'm going to start out with a scripture in John, and that's as far as we're going to go. And we're going to take this attitude that you just read out of Micah and out of Romans, and we're going to put it into the world of AI and end times.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you have a society that is, and see, here's the thing, our society isn't this way. It's not even 50%.
Wow.
You got about 20% hardcore over here. You got about 7% really true Christians, and then about 20% true
But it
conservatives.
keeps creeping, that
and then you've got
Overton
this
window.
gray matter in the middle where you lean this way or you lean that way.
Right.
But these people, many of them, are just simply deceived, and they think that everybody thinks like them. We're smart enough to know not everybody thinks like us, right?
Right.
So in the Salvaged by God deep dive, I just want to talk about AI and the coming end times and how basically the Pandora's box is open. I cannot see why Jesus would hold off. Look, America's destruction's for sure. Now, whether the world continues on after we're destroyed is a whole nother story. That's between Jesus and
And God, I guess,
yeah,
the
Father and
Father.
the Son. We're waiting on the Father to tell the Son to come here. And by the way, that all goes over the Middle East. It has nothing to do with America.
Right, exactly.
I mean, nothing annoys me more than when some crackpot comes on Daystar or TBN talking about how they've been given a vision about, look at the eclipse. It goes over rapture. It goes over repentance. It makes an X. Oh, Jesus is coming. Repent. It's so sad. It's so sad. So anyway, the Harrison Butker, Travis Kelce thing, and I like Travis Kelce. You said that the real party-hardy thing left in the 80s and 90s, I think that was our era. You and I were in the era of that party-hardy.
Right, exactly.
So we've grown out of it,
Yeah.
but there was one that followed us.
Yeah, I think there
was two that followed us.
our generation made it commonplace.
We got saved, soundly saved, and walked away from all things, let's just say 1992, because we flirted with stuff in the 80s, but 92 was a kind of a pivot point for us. So at that point, when we quit partying in 92, so did everybody else. That's kind of how you feel. You process the lens through your own experiences.
Right, that's true, yeah.
But let's start out with the scripture, and then let's get into the AI thing. And
Okay.
first of all, the scripture is, Let not your hearts be troubled. It's John 14, 1 through 3. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? ? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. Now, what is one of the first things that happens when you read that? You think, when's he going to come for us? How soon can we go? When's he going to be here? Look at the time. Come on, let's go. What are the signs of his returning? Well, the signs of his returning, I think, have to do a lot with just the uncorking of the sin nature. It says, such are the days of Noah, such will be the days of the coming of the Son of Man.
Right, yeah.
So when you add all those things together and you look at how AI is growing, and then you look at how our mainstream culture, which doesn't have the whole population but has the mainstream culture, has just did a news story that tried to show Harrison Butker being a moron and Travis Kelce being what you all want to have. Don't you want to have Taylor Swift as your girlfriend?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what is part of the ongoing fight, and I think it has a lot to do with AI. Now, before I get into my AI thing, I happen to have something that not a lot of people have, and that is I have a professional broadcast journalist who's one of my best friends, and he happens to be in the building right now, and so I could put him on it and say, go find some stuff.
That's
He's
cool.
better at that than us.
That's really cool. When's this person showing up?
That's you, brother. Mike Shaw is with us. He's a broadcast journalist by trade. He does a lot of different things, but he had a talk show in Tucson for 4 years. You were a former weatherman.
Yeah.
You know how to dig into the news minutia and come out with some stuff. So we sicked you on the AI story to get us rolling today, and we all have a lot of stuff to share. But first, Mike, what have you found as far as end times and AI going hand in glove with? And am I wrong when I say right now, May of 2024, it's accelerating? Is that true?
Oh, it's very true. There were two major announcements just this week about AI, or last week about AI. I forgot it's Monday, so it was last week. OpenAI came up with their new ChatGPT 4o. O stands for Omni. Omni meaning it's the first of its kind. And the next day, Google I/O, which is their annual developers conference, they did 2 hours, I think it was, of just AI announcement after AI announcement, all talking about what they're doing with Gemini and how Gemini is going to be integrated into your phone and integrated into your search and integrated into everything. And these are big leaps in AI. Some people are disagreeing because a lot of it's like, oh, AI's been able to do that and AI's been able to do that. But what AI has not been able to do and is now able to do with these new models, especially with ChatGPT 4.0 or 4.0.
I know. I had the tendency to say the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
For Omni is it's combining everything. So before you would have different tools. One tool would do, generate video. One would generate pictures. One would chat back and forth.
Right.
One would understand, wouldn't understand audio, but it would take audio, convert it to text, then solve the problem, take that text, convert it back to audio, and there would be a delay and all of that.
Okay.
Well, they've solved that in this new model. It can understand text, it can understand video, it can understand pictures, and it can understand voice.
All of it in one place.
All of it in one place. It takes it and interprets the question or the context, and then it spits it out in those same things. There's no more middleman where it has to interpret voice and then change it to text and then do the work and then change it back. It's a lot faster.
Yeah.
And it can now share, right? So now it understands what video is and what audio is and what text is, and it can draw on all of those things to train itself even better.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The learning portion of the AI is enhanced, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it has, and that's where we're heading. So there's a thing called AGI, and we're not there yet.
What's the difference between AGI and AI?
So AI right now is a powerful tool.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, usually with a specific, like in the early days, you'd program AI to be a chess champion.
Well, Siri's an AI.
And that's all it would do. Siri is not an AI.
Why not?
Well, it's kind of an AI. It's a lame AI. But
don't
maybe
be dissing my Siri. We've traveled
I
the
don't
world
like
together.
her.
Well, we're getting. So we're building the Siri.
She's a bit invasive.
We're building the Siri because keep in mind ChatGPT 4o and what Google is doing with Gemini. Apple needs help with Siri. They don't have these AI learning tools. They're in negotiations with both of them to bring one of them, possibly, most likely, to Siri when they come up with their developers conference in next month.
Okay, so the question is, because you have all these different companies that are doing different things, wouldn't they all have to kind of come together to do this all together, or can one company just do it all on their own and then everybody
What
goes
does do
to
it all
that?
mean?
Well, like Facebook, they started the whole social media thing.
No, I mean there was MySpace before that. There was Zanga before that.
Right, but
So they just built on it, and they just happened to hit at the right time. Twitter came out almost the same time as Facebook.
It's a pretty good
Yeah.
analogy, though, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is.
because you have all these different social medias, and then the big ones start eating up the little ones.
Right,
And,
yeah.
now we just have a couple, three left.
that's what I'm wondering.
Right, and so I think that's what's happening in the AI space now. ChatGPT 3.5, which was the last one, was very advanced, probably the most advanced, text to text, interpret the text and give you a text answer. It was the most advanced, most accurate, and Google's been working on theirs, and then others have excelled in videos, others have excelled in imaging, and so this competition is good.
Right.
And so it pushes all of them to be better. Now you could argue it's not good because it pushes them to push it out to the public maybe before it's ready. So that's one
that's
possible
kinda scary.
That's one possible scary part. But with what ChatGPT 4o is doing now is when they did their announcement and they brought out this chatbot and they're just talking to their phone or to their laptop.
Right,
And
as though it's just a person.
it's like it's a person and it's laughing.
And it's doing everything for you.
Giggling. It's talking in a
And
female.
we wanted to bring it on the show right now, but we weren't able to have our AI up to speed to get that on the air.
Well, it was
but
booked.
she was also a little flirty.
She's very flirty. So there's a movie.
See-
There's a movie called Her.
Yeah.
Back
Yes.
in, right.
Yeah.
That movie
Yes.
Her. where
That
guy
was a
falls-
that was a propaganda. Move the Overton window
Yeah.
piece. That's
Yeah.
all that was.
Well, that
That's all
Overton
that
window
was.
is moving, my
It's
friend.
moving.
Yeah, it
it's
is.
moving fast.
There are going to be people that are going to be falling in
I gotta-
love
Yeah.
with
So now,
AI.
is it going to be like required that all of us are connected to this thing?
No, of course not.
No,
no.
But,
All you need to do.
But what it's going to do, it's going to dominate society. Go ahead, Mike. I got to follow up here.
Well, all you need to do is get rid of your smartphone. Don't get on Google. Don't use Google Maps. Don't use anything Google. Make sure you don't use your Siri coming up in the next
Because
version.
it's all going to be integrated.
It's
so
all
if you
gonna be-
use
it's all
any of
gonna-
that stuff,
yeah.
you're using all of that
Look,
stuff.
if you have a smartphone
Okay.
in the room,
Yep.
all right, it picks up stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I just opened my Chat GTP
Yeah.
app while we've been talking, since we've been talking.
Right.
Now,
And the cops are here. No, I'm just kidding.
okay.
What's that black helicopter?
All right. I'm going to give
see
you.
any
I'm going to give you a
markings
couple.
on it.
I'm going to give you
Drone
a couple
out the
examples.
window.
I'm going to give you a couple examples.
Okay. Give
All
me
right.
some examples.
Keep in mind, this is GPT 3.5 that Chris is using.
Okay.
That understands. He's going to speak. It's going to convert it to text. It's going to answer his text and then convert it back. Well, I don't think it'll speak back to him. It's going to spit
Okay.
out a text answer.
Okay.
All right. First of all, before we get to that, I got something else that
Oh,
just
really?
happened that I wanted to bring up.
Just
yeah.
happened. This just did.
Just happened. Okay. Here's my phone. It's right here. It's Chat GTP.
It's listening.
You know that the phone listens to you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Emily and I have never had a mouse problem in our house ever. Okay, because Emily's like a normal person and she demands to live outside of vermin.
Rodent free.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you got a vermin-free missus, you got to keep her happy. I mean, that's just what happens.
Yeah, I'm a country girl, but them critters stay
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. So mice, when you live by a cornfield in Iowa, they will find their way in the winter. They'll be part of the team. They'll be part of the
They
game.
just want to be warm.
So we are talking about what do we do? Do we buy live traps or other traps or whatever? We had this conversation one time in the car. One time in the car. We get home, and that night I had never, and Emily had never, in her Facebook feed and my Facebook feed, have never had mouse trap ads, but they were filled. I had 5, she had 4, just in the first 2-3 minutes of scrolling. You'll never convince me that it's not listening.
Right.
Chat GTP knows what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
I opened the app for the first time in a long time, and this is what it gives me for the suggestions on the bottom.
Okay.
All right. And by the way, we were just watching a video about, I know we're party animals. We were watching a video about the old Roman Empire before we came over
Oh,
here.
how fun.
We were, yeah.
that's
we
great.
were. So
Hail Caesar.
Here's
something.
it gives me four suggestions on the bottom.
Okay.
Maybe I can
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Those four suggestions along the bottom.
What are they?
Write a thank you note to your interviewer,
Oh.
like
Oh,
I'm
wow.
being interviewed.
That's nice.
Explain superconductors like I'm 5 years old. Tell me a fun fact about the Roman Empire.
What?
Yeah, and then here's the last one. Help me pick out an outfit that'll look good on camera.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like you
Wow.
have two wives now.
They knew you were going to be on camera.
No.
I like the
Nobody-
shirt it picked out.
I
It's pretty
don't.
good.
I don't live in Utah. I'm going to stick with just one. All right. Tell me something to ask GPT that you want me to ask right now.
Okay.
What do you want? What should we ask him? Or her or it? I don't know. I go to her because of that stupid movie. Who was in that?
I don't remember who was in that
Anyway,
movie.
I saw
movie?
the
Her?
trailer. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw the
Her,
trailer.
Joe, what's her name?
Jokum or whatever his name is.
No, I don't know his name. I was trying to think of her name because everyone was saying her voice of ChatGPT 4.0 is a lot like hers.
Same dude just starred as Napoleon.
Oh, Joaquin.
Joaquin, Joaquim or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
River
Joaquin
River
Phoenix?
Phoenix's brother.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah.
We got it surrounded.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
don't
right.
know how
What
to
am I
say his
asking
name.
ChatGPT to keep
who
this going?
starred in her? I mean, duh.
that's a good question. We're sitting here
We're just
wondering.
sitting here
Hello.
wondering. Hello,
What's a question we could ask?
Scarlett Johansson and this other.
Does
dude.
it say?
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah.
Joaquin.
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 Joaquin
Whatever.
Phoenix?
He's the dude is such a.
He was in Young Guns, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that Hollywood just wrecked his brain, and I mean he's just really out there right now. Is all I can
Who
say.
hasn't Hollywood wrecked their brain?
But it says the phrase "who starred in her" seems incomplete and may contain a typo. If you mean who starred in her,
The movie
the
Her.
answer is Joaquin.
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 Is it?
He's going to
is
be
it
offended.
Phoenix?
Yeah, I know.
Is it Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Phoenix?
Yeah.
It's a 2013 film. So it's been 10 years
Yeah,
since
10
they've been
years.
doing that.
And
But let's
Scarlett Johansson.
let's ask something legit. Let's
All
I
right.
mean
All right. How often should I rotate my tires?
no, that's let's do something eclectic like
All right.
well,
How often
who's-
should I take out the garbage?
hang on.
Who's better, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know.
Well,
let's go with
man,
something
picky,
deeper than that.
picky.
No.
All
I'm
right.
pushing it. How about
All right.
let me try this.
All right.
Give me a strategy that will allow me to make money, make friends, and find a beautiful wife.
It's going to give you Harrison Butler's answer.
Oh my god, it just went off. It's
Yeah.
still going.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
still going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a deep
Find
question.
a wealthy person.
That's a deep question.
Achieving the goals of making money, making friends, and finding a beautiful wife involves a combination of personal development, strategic actions, and maintaining a positive mindset.
Oh, that's good.
Here's a multifaceted strategy to help you pursue these objectives.
Look at this.
Making money, education and skill development.
Can you
There's a
send that
bunch
to
of-
me?
Career advancement. Choose a lucrative career path.
You know, you could have just asked me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look,
that's true.
anybody who goes into ministry as a lucrative career path is on the wrong career path. I'm not saying there aren't people that make a lot of money in ministry. There are, but there's not a lot that have the cross as the foundation of their whole
Right,
world
right.
that go out there and make a ton of money, usually because you end up giving it away if you find it. Anyway, seek mentorship, entrepreneurship, making friends, social engagement, join clubs and groups, volunteer. I mean, this is just
It's really good, though. Think about what's happening. You just asked an artificial intelligence, and it's giving you a very comprehensive and correct answer
Yeah.
on how to succeed in life in those areas. And this would be unheard of 5 years ago.
wanna-
5 years ago. If
Right,
you'd ask,
right.
if you asked Siri that right now, she'd be like, "Here's some stuff I found for you on the internet."
exactly.
And she'd send you
Yeah.
a few lame links.
Right.
This is where ChatGPT was a week ago. And now when this, and it's going to be free to everyone, which I'll explain why. Well, I'll explain why right now. It's going to be free to everyone because we're going to be helping to train it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
the
gonna
more
be-
we use it, the more
It's going to be on our
will
phones. We're going to be
understand.
showing what we can see. Hey, ChatGPT, what do you see? Where am I?
It's beyond freaky and scary
Yeah.
if you really play it out.
Right.
And, you know, we used to look at it like, well, yeah, they're going to have a McDonald's that doesn't have humans. So what?
So here's where
I'm talking about every single thing. Let me finish this here.
Yeah.
Personal development, finding a beautiful wife. I got to share with you what it tells you. Number one, the very big thing that you got to have to find a beautiful wife.
be good looking.
It says, focus on health and fitness.
Okay.
Maintain a healthy lifestyle and take care of your physical appearance or you don't have a shot, bucko.
Is that what it said?
No, it didn't say bucko.
What about the body image thing? Aren't
Yeah.
dad bods
And
in?
then you need emotional intelligence. You need to develop your emotional intelligence to understand and respond to emotions and others effectively. So before we get back to your report, Mike, I want to go in one other direction, and I want you guys to answer this honestly. And any of you listening or watching, freshroadmedia.com, there's a button there called Sound Off. Click on that button and leave a voicemail in response to this. It's that simple. But here's what I want to ask you. Once AI gets up and kicking, all right, and you are falsely accused of something, and you're going to court, okay, and you have your choice between a human attorney and an AI attorney.
Ooh.
Which one are you going to choose?
Well, it depends
And
on-
I'm telling you right now, and then we'll go to Mike, then we'll go to Emily, and then we'll put this to bed. An AI attorney is going to be so strong, it's going to be able to compare legal precedents. It's going to be able to bring up different things. It's going to be able to quadruple check facts like 1 billion times in 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. I'm going AI attorney all the way to defend me when I'm falsely accused. What about
Really?
you, Mike?
So is Barnaby Jones available?
No.
Harry Mason?
Matlock?
Any of those
And
guys?
here's the other thing.
Judge Judy.
And here's the other thing. What if the jury is AI?
Yeah, well, so
We wouldn't even need a jury.
so this
at
is
that
our
point.
this is our future. AI
It
is
is
going to
our
be
future, I'm telling
Our
you.
future is going to be AI is going to be judge, attorney, and jury.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where we're headed.
That's
but
true.
I think if it's public defender that the unknown or AI, I'll take AI.
Really.
Emily, what would you do?
That's really interesting. I think it depends on whether you're actually guilty or innocent.
No, you're falsely
Falsely
accused. You're
Falsely
innocent.
accused. Okay.
Yes.
You know what? That's really hard because I worked for an attorney and a judge.
Cool. Yeah.
No, I know we
And
want to stay
so,
with the humans, but
I gravitate toward the human because the human is able to pick up, subtleties and perceive things, deeper things, subtler things than what AI
That's true.
would be able to do.
So
So
that's
I would
true.
lean toward the human.
Okay, so
yeah, that's good.
So ChatGPT 4.0. One of the things it can do now is read your facial expressions
Okay.
and discern how you're feeling,
Or even what you're thinking.
like a real person
Yeah.
will do. And it'll get better at that. And so
Right.
before I was answering what AGI is, and so right now AI is just regular AI. This advancement that we've just combining all these different
Yeah.
talents into one AI is another step towards AGI, which is artificial general intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And the definition of that, depending on who you talk to, but generally speaking, is where AI would be smarter than 90% of the people on 90% of the subjects.
Okay.
In other words, where one AI is smarter than almost everyone on pretty much
Wow.
everything.
Yeah, that'd be really frustrating for those uber smart nerds.
Right. Right. And,
AI would be so dumb to them,
right. So we've got Watson, who was trained to win Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's got general knowledge, but take that and expand it out to where it's going to AGI, artificial intelligence is going to be better than everyone at everything.
And
they're-
faster.
They say that's 12 months away, 12
Yep.
to 18 months.
I think sooner.
AI is going to be smarter than any human on Earth, and not just a human, but all of us put together.
Yeah.
Well, that's so
Because of the way the processing can do a billion things at one time.
Right.
and it can and it can remember everything. So
Yeah.
That's the thing too. You can remember it remembers and retains it
and
all.
so the way this artificial intelligence works is it mimics the human mind. It has nodes that are interconnected, and so it's basically a neural network. And it's just like anything else that man tries to do. There's this joke I heard on Family Life Radio. You guys remember Lee? Lee was on late at night, and he was telling a joke. He goes, "Okay, the scientists and God decided to have a man building contest," and so the scientists started gathering up some dirt, and God said, "Wait a minute, get your own dirt."
Yeah.
And do you think about it? All the
That's true.
and so as smart as God made us, because He made us in His image, and we are brilliant. And at the Tower of Babel, God said, "We must, nothing will be, they'll be able to accomplish anything they want unless we can disperse them," which the languages came in.
Right.
And so here we are back to the Tower of Babel, and so now we're taking God's dirt. And we're creating stuff. We think we're creating out of thin air. We're not.
Right.
We're just mimicking what God did and doing our own versions of it. And as AI accomplishes AGI, we're going to see more jobs are already being lost. We're going to see more and more
Yeah.
and more jobs being lost.
And
It's going to get to
nobody's
the
really-
point where no one's going to be needed anymore.
Right.
Oh, there's something else happening too. If you go to Boston Dynamics Twitter account,
Okay.
or for one, I mean they're
Boston
kind of
Dynamics.
leading in robotics, but you just see where robotics is now. Tesla has a new robot, a humanoid robot, and as these get better and better, if you have a robot that has human dexterity or better, and there's a Boston Dynamics robot that gets up from the ground and its hips swivel the wrong way and its knees pivot the wrong way and its head spins all the way around, because it's not limited to, so you can make these bodies however you want.
Do you know what they're called? They're called
Robots?
AI. No, the robotics have been around for 20 years now.
Yeah, yeah.
They've been building cars and doing all kinds of stuff. But they're programmed. The new one is called AI chassis.
There you go.
Oh, like
AI
a car
chassis.
Thank you.
chassis.
That's where
Yeah,
exactly where it's
yeah,
going. They're
yeah.
going to put
Okay.
AI in these things.
Yep.
And
They're
then
building these different types of chassis, anything to look like a dog, look like a human. And it's not like they're going to try to replicate humans. We're just going to get so used to whatever robotics has come up that is beyond robotics now.
if
it's
you
an
have,
AI chassis.
And if you have an AGI that can teach itself, and so, right now it's going to be in our phones and it's going to be able to see our video. It's going to be able to talk to us. It's going to learn through our experiences and what we show it. And then if you put it into a body, then all of a sudden it's going to be able to experience movement, and that's going to help it grow
Continue
and
to
learn.
learn.
and-
Yeah.
and-
Exactly.
So
And
who's
what-
feeding it precedent to create its worldview? That's because these things are going to have a worldview. They're going to make decisions. That's why I said that I use the attorney example,
Right.
and I said, in a generic, very benign conversation, I would take the AI attorney. I don't mean that forever. I like Emily's answer, but the reality is that we always talk about how the machines are going to rise up, ha 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 ha, like the sitcom where the guy goes, "I don't have an ATM card or debit card because when the machines rise up, the ATMs are going to lead the charge," and we all laugh. But it's coming to a point where they're going to be learning and then executing what they learn based on a worldview that's going to be put into them.
Right.
That's what
exactly.
scares me more than
So,
anything.
If there's information in there that, human beings are so detrimental to the earth, at what point does AI determine that humans they're in the way? They are a problem and they deal with it.
Couple different things there. So first of all, government's very interested in what's happening, and
I can't understand why. I don't know why
understand
they're
why.
getting their
I don't
hands
know.
dirty.
and you think about, we've read Revelation. We know where
Yeah.
all of this is going. We've done shows. We've talked about central bank digital currencies. We've talked about social scores and all of these things. If government can harness AI and have it work on its side,
Which they will.
then
yeah.
AI can quickly know everything about you and dig into all of your everythings and probably know more about you than maybe even you do or remember.
Right.
And, if there's a new terrorist list based on whatever parameters. Christian nationals are dangers to watch.
They can change it at their whim.
They can change it at their whim. AI can help them easily find the Christian nationals. I'm using air quotes for our audio listeners. Or whatever parameters they're looking for. AI is going to be a powerful tool.
Or what's the acceptable form of Christianity?
Right.
And if you're outside of that acceptable form,
Well,
of
the other
Christianity-
thing I heard a Democrat talking about how AI could help them achieve their goals, and their goals have a lot of different, like good little titles to them, but they have sinister things behind
like
them.
everything
totally.
they pass in Congress.
Yeah. Build back better. The
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, exactly.
Just little sound bites to make them sound like they're leaders and,
Right.
and actually helping us out.
And then,
No, go ahead.
and then when you think about it, in terms of the United States, right now we're still like the freest of the people, and we have one of the least rogue governments in the country, and yet their mindset is to share all this on a global scale. So our government won't even be needed. You know what I mean? Or individual governments won't even be needed if it's all so consolidated. We've already been talking about how, the World Health Organization is going to rule overall and the UN is going to rule overall. This is going to rule overall, isn't it?
And the World Health Organization can use AI to make sure everyone's in compliance.
There you
Well,
go.
and here's the
Very
other thing
easy.
to finish what I was talking about is that the goals of some of the people on the liberal side, well, all the people on the liberal side, is to eliminate Christianity, the U.S.
Right.
Constitution, personal freedom, and that's why Harrison Butker really torqued him off because
I know.
that's the old way of doing it. The new way of
Yeah.
doing it, it's going to be really bad. So they're going to program AI to help them carry out these goals. Their goals, by the way, if you really follow the platform of the liberal progressives, there's nothing in that platform at the end of the day when they finally get to their victory that allows Christians and Jews to actually survive. Doesn't anybody add 2 plus 2
Right.
and see that we've got a major problem?
Well,
We need to get Democrats saved is what we need to
we
do.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do.
absolutely.
And that's it's a proof I use. If the Bible isn't true, then how come the world hates Christians and Jews?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
it makes no sense otherwise. So
Yeah.
obviously the
And-
Bible's true.
And tells us that it's always going to be that way, and here
Yep.
we are, and it's still that way.
I met a Democratic operative who said the following. She said, I don't agree with a lot of what the party is doing, but we're still the party of compassion, and we care about illegal immigrants, and we care about children, and we care about these other things. And, so I'm going to continue to do that, and I don't like Trump. Or, okay, this is the... Do you love Jesus? Did Jesus die for you?
Yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, then we have to try to love those who hate us, but you don't go vote for the ones who hate you and want to kill you.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And so here's some other cool AI stuff to further answer your question too, Emily. My son and I had this conversation years ago about a better way to make paper clips. And if you told AI, hey, find a better way to make paper clips.
Yeah.
And if AI discovers that a better way to make paper clips is to get humans out of the way because they're wasteful, then that without the proper governors on, or if AI is powerful enough, they might get rid of humans in order
Yeah.
to achieve their goal of making paper clips. A silly
Right.
example, but you can see how something like that might happen.
Now you bring up an interesting thing, though. You bring up governors, filters,
Right,
things that
right.
there you can only go so far. But
Correct.
we live in a world where not everyone has the same access to all these things, and I can't imagine that AI would be any different. I mean, some people are going to have fewer governors and filters on the things that they can do, but I think the peons, like you and me, we're not. Ours are going to be full of them. We'll have tons of limits as to what our AI will be able to do for us. What's the
Why? Because we're Christians?
Well, because
just the
because
general public?
just the general public versus politicians or law enforcement or
The
government or
Right.
world entities or all those things. They're going to have some people will have more power than other people.
So Chicago
that
will have
never change.
Chicago
even
will
with
have
AI.
RoboCops, and we won't get them.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know. I even forgot my question. I don't even know what it is anymore. So,
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about is end times and AI, AGI.
Okay.
You know, as this grows,
Yep.
where they have these AI chassis now that are going to be infused with this artificial intelligence, which actually now has grown to the point where it can learn, it can remember, it can process, it can do all these things much better than the human being.
It's getting there.
So let's
getting
just
there.
let's just say that the person who is the smartest in the world about plastics, like a plastic water bottle, all right, AI can match that dude, right? I mean, is there anything that guy can bring that AI can't learn and do
Right.
better?
Yeah.
So the reality is that a few years ago, like just before COVID, what's the little scrawny wormy guy that runs Facebook? What's his name? Zuckerberg.
He's been working out, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
he's
this guy, this
Look,
little wormy
look,
guy.
Mike, you're not very tall. I'm not the tallest guy either, but I ain't sitting on a booster chair when I'm addressing Congress. I'll tell you that much.
You don't look
okay?
like a cyborg either. It's amazing.
He came out.
true.
He was one of them. He was one of about like 6 guys in his little sphere. Gates wasn't there, but the other ones were all there. And I'm not sure if Tim Cook from Apple was there or not either. But basically, do you guys remember in 19 and right before COVID
Yeah.
how we got to
remember.
process a living wage for all human beings?
Sure.
Yep.
If you breathe air and you're a certain status of class, you should be given a living wage from the government. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're not going to, any of us are going to have any jobs anymore at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. We'll be a workless
Here's
society. How does
here's where they're trying to get to. These are the idealistics that think man is good. So these are secular people, very
Okay.
smart people that think we're moving towards a Star Trek kind of future where we won't have to work, where AI will help us to discover how to make food out of nothing, rearrange molecules, literally that, to
Wow.
make whatever we need. And then we can pursue art or hobbies or other pursuits and not have to worry about scarcity on the planet, and we'll all
Isn't
be
that
rich.
what Stalin promised?
So that's the problem. They're very idealistic, and
Yeah, yeah.
and also to get there is even if
It's
they're
gonna be
right,
painful.
even if they're right, which we've read Revelation, we know they're not right. But even
Right.
if they're right, that transition is very painful.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loses their job, and then they have to figure out, universal basic income and make
Yeah.
that work. But really, what happens is everyone loses their job. You get a universal basic income. There's a long line for a loaf of bread that you can't afford, and you're a
Exactly.
slave.
Yep.
And AI is policing everything.
Wow.
well, I believe the way it's going right now, and again, when I say I believe, it's I do believe this, but I'm not married to it. I can be talked out of it. It's not like it's, the cross of Christ. I can never be talked out of that. That's done and forever. But I believe that AI is the false prophet. And I believe that it's now shaping up that the Antichrist could be, as we seal up that till the time of the end, and now it's the time of the end, so some of this stuff is starting to be unsealed. I believe that there will be a hybrid, fallen angel human who will come on the scene and claim to be the Antichrist, and the false prophet AI will back him up 100% of the time. He's not going to be a man of normal affections, and so it'll be a little bit unnormal. Well, guess what Jesus is to the Antichrist? Jesus is, he's just another one just like me. He's another one who was born of the Spirit and of the woman just like me. You go back to the early parts of Genesis with the Nephilim. It's hard for people to get their minds around, but the Bible actually tells us that fallen angels mated with human women and had offspring.
Forbidden flesh.
And
yeah.
that flesh was in the promised land when they came to cleanse it, which is why God told them to kill everybody and everything. And God's just so ruthless. He's not. No, there was something very sinister going on. So something's been happening, and then when this guy comes, it's going to be like, Jesus was like, he was one of me. So when you're worshiping Jesus, you're actually worshiping me. So why not just worship me? Jesus walked on water. He'll go over to the lake and just right across.
Yeah.
He'll call fire down from heaven, whatever. I mean, he's going to be doing many signs and wonders that are going to deceive even the elect if God didn't shorten the time, which goes back to Jesus saying, if you say he's here, don't believe him. If it says go there, don't believe him.
Yeah.
So those of us who believe that God created the earth, that he that Adam sinned, that Jesus came to redeem all of mankind, and that the Bible is true and our final authority on life on earth. AI as the false prophet, and the Antichrist as a fallen angel, woman person who somehow shows up. And I think he's going to claim to be an alien and say, hey, yeah, we came here and started the seed, 150 million years ago or whatever,
right,
or 150,000 years ago, and Jesus is my brother, and Muhammad was a good guy, and they're all in it with me, so y'all worship me. That's what's going to happen. In fact, the temple will be re-sacrificing, and when they're re-sacrificing, he's going to come and put an end to it and say, you don't have to do this anymore because I'm standing right here, okay? And they're going to go along with it.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
you
like
can
the
see
Jews are going to
how-
rip their clothes and run out of the temple. No, they're
Right.
going to go along with it, which is why when Jesus actually returns, they weep like they weep for their firstborn son when
Yeah.
they see they've been bamboozled, they've been deceived.
Yeah.
So that's
Wow.
where I see all of this headed. And, that's a lot to process, and there's a lot of, it's a pretty big matzo ball hanging out there.
So if you take, all right, so if you take that possible biblical end time, because that's not unbiblical. It's one interpretation of how what we know is in the Bible
It's all set
could
up
happen.
for it if it happens.
And so how do we get from where we are now to that? And if they're on this trajectory to use AI to bring in this utopia, and at the same time purge the planet of Christian nationals and other malcontents that they don't like, when they get to the point where people are taken care of, there are these breakthroughs in science and everything seems to be wonderful. And a guy comes on the scene and solves all of our, since COVID, nothing's normal. This is the new
Right,
normal.
right.
Right.
If he bursts on the scene and solves all those problems and uses AI to do it, you could see how it could flow that way.
Yeah, people would flock to that. And if he's drawing those parallels, like telling the Jews, you don't need to do sacrifice because I'm standing right here, that's going to resonate with people who have heard the gospel,
It's
even if
not
they're
gonna-
not
yeah.
soundly saved.
It's not going to be a guy coming up through the ranks who got a full ride at Oxford when he was 12 years
Right,
old and then
right.
went to Harvard when he was 15 and he's just the most smartest man. No, it's going to be something totally different.
You mean Obama?
Look, first of all, you got to look at what's going to happen and then you got to back it from there. This is going to happen,
Okay.
then back it back
Yeah.
to where I'm at.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
This person, this Antichrist, is going to have a false prophet that is propping him up in a way that people won't argue with him. He's also
Right.
going to be the 12th imam to the Muslims. At the same time, he's going to be the Messiah to the Jews. Okay? And at the same time, he's going to solve all of these religiosity problems and
Issues.
unify everything under one banner, which is himself.
Yeah.
So to do that, he's got to have some satanic signs and wonders. And what better than a fallen angel human hybrid back from the Nephilim days? What if God preserved some of those until this time, for this time? There's so much in Scripture that leans towards this. I'm not saying what I'm saying is fact. I'm saying consider it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
what should it be? What should it do to you? Well, what it should do to you and Emily and Mike and myself is it should make us more motivated to share the gospel with more
the only
abandon
answer.
Yeah.
for what time we've been given. And so at my church, at Jesus' church that I serve, we have a phrase called any way possible. Any way possible. I know some folks that love to go and cook meals and share food with people, just drop off food at their house and share the gospel with them, or just love them and ask if they can pray for them. Everybody's different. Whatever God's calling you to do, now's the time. And so
Right.
I'll finish with this, Emily, and throw it back to you and Mike, and you can take it wherever you want.
Right.
Are we done with the AI, or do you got more, Mike?
That's pretty much where I wanted to end up. How does this fit into end times?
Right.
We don't really know.
Yeah.
I think those are possibilities that we've talked about. I could talk about 10 more probably, but we'd be here all
Yeah.
day.
Right.
But I think that's feasible, what you talked about. I think AI is obviously going to be involved.
Yeah. Well, here's the question that I want to ask everybody. You're listening to this show on one of the Spotify's, iTunes, whatever, or you're watching it on Rumble and YouTube. And at the end of this show, which is going to come up, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Right On, Way Off, and then we're off for 2 weeks. We're back in 2 weeks. I would like to give you a not plausible, but a hypothetical situation. At the end of this show, an angel appears to you, and you fall down as if you're like dead. It's a real angel.
It's scary.
And he says, hey, you.
Powerful.
He says, hey, you, fill in your name here.
Yeah.
You're the only one I'm telling this, okay? And you can't tell anybody I told you. But Jesus is coming back on July 2nd at 7:15 p.m., okay? It's happening. It's happening. Trust me. And so then the angel's gone. Now, what do you do with the next 6 weeks? What do you do?
I don't believe him. It's
Yeah.
not, that's not biblical.
No. I'm just saying you believe him.
Okay.
It's a hypothetical make-believe scenario, but
Okay.
this happens to you and you believe it. You know it's true. You know God sent that angel to tell you. That's not even in question.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's not even in question. And God says, look, you got 5 weeks, 3 days, and 6 hours, or whatever the case might be. What do you do? And my point is, it shouldn't look much different than what you're doing right now.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
Share the word.
That's, I
Take
mean,
as many people with you as you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that God's going to move and possibly give us, instead of 6 months before we're destroyed, maybe 6 years. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I do know that the time is short. The writing's on the wall. If you have anybody in your life that you need to reconcile with, now's the time. If you have anybody in your life that you need to make a phone call to encourage them, now's the time. If there's anybody that you need to be praying for that would find salvation, now's the time. And if there's anybody that you need to share the gospel with, now is the time. Salvaged by God, we share the gospel in every message. Can't go wrong by sharing that one. Start there and then
right.
pick it up from there.
Very good.
All right, I tell you what, let's take a 10-second station ID type break. Emily will give you a little word, and we'll be back with Right On Way Off right here on No Apology with Emily and Chris.
Hey, if you enjoy listening to No Apology with Emily and Chris, if you get any encouragement from it, please consider standing with us financially. Go to freshroadmedia.com and consider giving a wonderful gift today. It is appreciated.
Welcome back to No Apology with Emily and Chris. We are so glad that you are along with us for the ride today. And it is time for Right On Way Off, Emily.
All right. I've got 3 statements. I'm going to throw them out there for Chris and Mike. They're going to tell me whether those statements are right on or way off. And I'm going to tell them whether they are right or wrong. It's one of my spiritual gifts.
She's going to tell us whether we should shove off or
Right on, way off, or shove off.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
pound sand or shove off.
Here is the very first statement. It says, be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things, never settle for what is easy. Is that right on or is that way off, Chris Danielson?
That is right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole toxic masculinity thing, making, taking the extreme macho, dude on the beach with the, kicking sand in people's face. I mean,
Right.
yeah, no one likes that guy.
Yeah.
But to try to say that you're a man who wants to protect your family, who wants to provide for your family, who wants to do hard things, and calling that toxic masculinity is a crock.
Yeah.
You've gotta neuter the men, or you don't have a chance with this, women power, narrative that's being choked down everybody's throat right now.
Yeah.
You can't even get a new Batman movie. They came out with Batwoman. Did you know that?
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah,
Chris.
no, I'm a little. I'm a little right on.
All right. Mike Shaw, what do you think? Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things, never settle for what is easy. Is that right on or way
right
off?
on, right on, right on. In fact, it's in the Bible.
Hey, all
It's
right.
pretty much in the Bible.
Yeah.
God is a God of order.
Chapter and verse, please.
Yeah. Well-
Chapter and verse, please.
Start in Genesis and take it to the last word in Revelation.
There you go.
And don't add or subtract from the words, otherwise the curses in the book will be added to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So don't forget that part. But God is a God of order, and the way He set things up is men are in charge of the family. They're the leaders in the community and in the church. And that's why you see the culture going after the patriarchy.
Yeah,
And
they have
women
to.
can do
God's plan.
anything. And so they're just it's just the spirit of Antichrist again, trying to tear down God's order of things,
Right.
making everyone miserable and things worse.
No.
Yeah. Hey, I remember
do.
growing up, and there was a little season in my life where, I don't know, maybe I was like 7, 8, 9 years old, where it was like I was looking at the life of men and women at the time. And this is the 70s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, how lucky would it have been to have been born a girl instead of a guy and have all of these problems and pressure and all the stress. And then I learned about childbirth.
Yeah.
And I went, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
And all those hormones they deal with when they're not childbirthing.
My gender confusion cleared right
Oh,
up.
thank you. Yeah.
I don't see you staying home day after day and changing poopy diapers.
I'm
No,
glad you got through that
I
struggle
don't see you
session
doing
on the
that.
right
I
side.
changed my share. You know I did.
Making sure every
Yeah.
every sick child has a puke bucket.
Yeah.
That's what moms do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Neither one is
Okay.
easy. But yes, that any guess as to who might have said that?
I know who said
Who
that.
said it?
Harrison Butker.
Very good. I thought that
Hey.
was appropriate. Totally
Job,
appropriate.
Harrison. Harrison's right
All
on.
right. Here's the next quote. Till men have faith in Christ, their best services are but glorious sins.
Oh,
That's a little twist.
Wow.
You both you guys, your eyes got squinty.
it's like
I'm going to say it
How does
again.
that compute?
Mine's because I'm perpetually tired. That's a whole other story.
Till men have faith in Christ, their best services are glorious sins. Is that right on or is that way off? Mike Shaw, you're going first.
it's right on.
Okay.
And there's a very specific reason why it's right on.
Okay.
Right on. The reason why it's right on is before you come to Christ, you don't have an account. And so you don't have any credit in your account before you come to Christ. You can be a good person, but we know no one seeks after God, not one. And so, yeah. And especially if you're living in the world and you're living for Satan, I mean, that's what you were doing. At least that's what I was doing. It's like I wanted to go party and I wanted to do all these things, and that's what I was pursuing. And
you were a Kelsey, weren't you?
yeah, but I was a Kelsey. And a good day was when I could be more Kelsey. The more Kelsey, the better was a good day. And everything that entailed.
Yeah.
And we know, I know now that that's just foolishness and death. And so, yeah, without an account, you don't get credit for even being a good person
Yeah.
before you come to Christ.
That
so,
is very interesting.
so it's right on.
That's a good point. All right, Chris, can you wake up over there? Do you
I'm
need some
awake.
coffee?
I'm awake.
Okay. Till men have faith in Christ, their best services are but glorious sins. Is that right on or is that way off? What do you think?
I'm going to go way off.
Why?
Well, I do agree with Mike that on one hand, I mean, what Mike's saying is that basically we are dead in our trespasses and sin, and what good can a dead person do?
Right.
You know? But on the other hand, not everything apart from Christ is sin. We are in our fallen nature, but I'm telling you, you could still give a cup of cold water in the name of Jesus as a lost person. There are many people that are out there trying to do good as lost people, not even knowing they're lost. That's the challenge with the gospel. Is it's so easy, it's hard. You know, you come to saving grace in Christ, and you're still going to sin, but then you do have the show me your faith, and I'll show you my works, says James, right?
True.
So I'm going to say way off that there is a made in God's image, there's an opportunity to be doing things that are not necessarily sinful, even if you're not saved. But just making an argument, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm way off.
It's
Whatever.
my chance to get a point.
I mean-
it is your chance. And you're taking it. You
Yes.
got it gloriously. It is right on because, and I think Mike kind of summed it up really good. You don't have an account. There's no credit there. You
Right.
have no good thing.
You're just
that
a dead
you
person
can
walking.
point
Yes.
to say, yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Jeremy McCann.
That is a quote from Thomas Brooks, who was a Puritan back in the 1800s.
Whoa.
And so, yeah.
Put
that
that
was
at
kind
your
of a
next
surprise.
Thanksgiving. Love it.
All right, very last one. Here we go. Chris, we're starting with you this time. There are two kinds of people in this world. Avoid both of them. Is that right on? Or is that way off? What do you think? There are two kinds of people
It's
in
not a
this
fair
world.
question.
Avoid both of them.
That's
It's not a
that
fair
right
question
on?
because you know I dislike everybody.
You are kind of the Grinch. Yeah.
No.
Loathe entirely.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go way off.
Okay. Why?
Well, because we're supposed to love our enemies. We're supposed to reach out. Look, there are folks that live in even the small town we now live in that kind of make my skin crawl. Seriously, just the thought of them makes my skin crawl.
Okay.
But if I run into them at the grocery store, or run into them somewhere else, or even if I see them across the parking lot, we don't interact. What happens to me is that I feel like the Spirit prompted me to pray for them, wish the best for them, hope that they have an awakening on
Right.
some of the harsh, evil issues that they've been dealing with, that they've been propagating, and so I don't have it against them, nor do I want to avoid them.
Right.
And these are people that I really genuinely dislike. And the people that I genuinely like, which is all other population, I've never met a stranger, right?
Yeah, I know.
I know it bothers
Yeah.
you. Talk to
I
them,
get
engage with them.
clenchy.
Avoid people. For what purpose? Avoid people. Why? There's nothing to avoid. I mean, I mean. I get
This
it.
is a large
I
part
get
of a
it.
lot of your
there,
answers
there,
right
there
here.
are. We didn't want our kids falling in with the wrong crowd, so there are certain
Yeah.
people that you have to avoid. I get that. All right, but set that aside for a second, and in general terms, share the gospel with everybody. Don't be afraid of people. Let your light shine for Christ. Interact with as many folks as you can, as often as you can.
All right. Very
Ba-dum-bum.
good. Very good. Mike Shaw, what do you think? There are two kinds of people in this world. Avoid both of them. What do you think about that quote? Right
way
on or
off, way off,
All
way off.
right.
Okay, if you're an introvert,
Yes.
that might be right on. in the natural, but you got to overcome that. And even as an introvert, you are very good at talking with close friends and family, people that you're comfortable with in a small setting. And even then, you might run into both kinds of people, which we don't even know what that means yet.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah.
If you're an extrovert like Chris and like me, maybe more Chris even more so than me, which is
Yeah,
weird.
he's very
'cause
extroverted.
There's not too many that are more extroverted than I am, but Chris is that guy. And so we don't meet strangers. We're not shy. And so, I mean, that statement makes no sense at all. What are you talking about? So anyway, what?
All right.
Way off.
Well, I loved that statement because I am an introvert
you
and
are.
I read it and I'm just like, yes. And of course, there are a lot of verses that talk about how we aren't supposed to trust in any frame and we are supposed to avoid certain people and so on. But you guys are both right on with what you said about it, because when push comes to shove, we were created to live in fellowship with one another. We're not gonna get along, and we're not gonna necessarily like everybody that we come in contact with. But what would life be without human contact? Well, AI is about to teach us. So,
And I'd go so far as to
Okay.
say that if you have this "I'm going to avoid people" mentality, whatever it is,
yeah.
any potential spiritual and interpersonal reconciliation with somebody who you might be at odds with,
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Not possible.
Not happening if you're all avoiding each other.
Yeah,
Same
exactly.
thing if you're really stressing and like, look, I believe Jesus is at the door. I mean, he's got his hand on the door handle waiting for God to give him the go-ahead. If you believe that, then you don't want to avoid anybody. You want to try to be with as
Right.
many people as you can so you get the opportunity to share the gospel.
Whether you like them or they like you doesn't matter.
What I'm
anymore.
talking about
Yeah.
isn't picking up the phone and just starting to call everybody in your contacts list saying, hey, do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying reach out to as many people as you can, build a rapport where you now have the right to speak truth into their life and speak about the gospel and
Yeah.
point them back to Jesus.
But the key word there too was avoid.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't go out of your way to avoid people. Don't necessarily go out of your way to
Be
unavoid
with
them. Yeah,
people.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Have discernment.
Well,
Yeah.
there's those personality profile things that
Yeah.
come back with the 4 letters and stuff.
Yep.
And Emily's an IS something. And there are only two types of people that she could possibly be with and be happy, according to this. And one of them is my 4 letters. So that worked out for
Yeah.
us. If you're going to be an introvert, you need to be with somebody like
Yeah,
me.
it's kind of said that introverts don't really have, there's extroverts that just kind of adopt them. That's what happens. So
Right. But, you know,
I
we
can be with you now.
we extroverts need the introverts around too to balance us out.
it
so it's
takes
like,
all kinds. In
like,
fact,
quit
there's
bouncing
two
off the walls, Chris.
two
Yeah.
kinds of people in this world, extroverts and introverts, and it takes them both. So
Yep.
Mike pulls out the win by just 1 point
about
once
time.
again.
I went for the radio theater.
I know you
Yeah.
always do, and you know
Yeah,
when
let's
has
mix it.
that helped you?
Well, how about you just ask us really basic, no brain questions, and Mike and I just robotically answer. Yes, that's right on. Yes, no, that's no fun.
No, the new
you
new
got to come up
AI
with other deep thoughts.
the new AI can expound.
That's right.
There you go. So maybe I'll
very
just
chatty.
fire you and have AI.
That's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
How do you
gonna happen.
fire
It's gonna-
somebody who's not hired and is not paid?
I'll just ask AI. Don't tell me.
Oh, you mean I don't have to spend an hour after the show editing and uploading?
All right.
Yeah. In fact,
You
I think
asked for it.
AI is exceptionally talented at figuring out how to get rid of people.
All right, here we
true.
go.
So-
There we go.
What?
How do you fire someone who is not paid and is simply a volunteer?
Oh, here we go. See, with the new Chat GPT, it'll read it for you in
Yeah.
a giggly
Firing
voice.
a volunteer can be a delicate process since it involves someone who is donating their time and effort. Here's a step-by-step strategy to
how
handle
to
this
do it.
situation
Can be
professionally.
done.
Prepare for the conversation. Schedule a private meeting. And there's deep stuff under each one of
Okay,
these.
we have a
Communicate
studio
clearly
audience.
and respectfully. Provide support and guidance. Document the conversation.
Ooh, it's getting serious.
Hang on.
now.
Does this
Hang on, hang
recording
on.
count?
Emily was mean to me.
How many write-ups do you get before you get let go?
Here's a sample script.
Oh, sample script.
You
Let's
want it?
hear
Yes,
I
read
want to
it.
hear you fire yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for meeting with me today. I want to start by expressing our appreciation for the time and effort you've contributed to Fresh Road Media. We truly value the dedication of our volunteers. However,
Here it comes.
I need to discuss some concerns that have arisen regarding specific issues, e.g., attendance, performance, behavior. Despite our previous discussions and attempt to address these issues, we haven't seen the necessary improvements. Given the needs and expectations of our organization, we've decided it's best to end your volunteer role with us.
All right.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
it can
Thanks,
be
Chris.
done.
Oh, AI goes on to really have some heartfelt feelings here.
Thank you for
You
your
ready?
service. That was good,
The
though, wasn't it?
decision wasn't easy. But it's important for us to ensure we can effectively meet our goals. We genuinely appreciate your understanding and wish the best in your future endeavors. If you'd like, I can suggest other volunteer opportunities that might be better fit your skills and availability. Thank you again for your contribution.
You're not competent enough to be a volunteer here, but let's send you to down the street. They'll be happy to have
All
you.
right, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
You can stay on
Thanks.
for another week. However, we will not have a
So,
show next week.
Mr. Danielson, we're not
Yes.
going to allow you to be the talk show host here because your wife fired you from a volunteer position.
Yeah,
Wait, we're all being fired next week, it sounds like.
yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, next week we're not here.
A
It's
sabbatical.
Memorial Day weekend. We're taking it
a
off. We'll be back in
sabbatical.
June.
We will be back a week.
Is there
later,
fireworks on Memorial
2 weeks
Day?
from today?
I used
Good
to have them at
question.
Berlin Raceway. Every holiday we hired fireworks.
Fireworks. Okay, cool.
If you're up in Michigan and watching, make sure you get out to Berlin this summer. Best racing around.
Yeah.
And usually fireworks on Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and
All
other
right.
special events.
Everyone have a very blessed Memorial Day. Remember what the day is all about.
Yep.
And then join us back here again the following week on No Apology with Emily and Chris.